Picture this moment of absolute silence. Not the quiet of an empty room, but something deeper, the kind that settles over ancient stone after millennia of secrets. Tonight, as your mind prepares for rest, let me share something that will change how you see the pyramids forever. 4,500 years ago, in the scorching sands of Giza, someone achieved the impossible. They aligned three massive stone monuments to true north with an accuracy that defies explanation. Just 1/15 of a degree off perfect. Modern engineers, armed with laser technology and satellite guidance, struggle to match this precision. But here's what keeps archaeologists awake at night. How did they do it? The Great Pyramid doesn't just sit there looking impressive. Hidden within its measurements lies the mathematical constant pi, encoded in stone before it was supposedly discovered. Its height-to-base ratio mirrors Earth's own proportions, as if the builders somehow knew our planet's exact dimensions from above. What if these weren't just tombs? What if Giza holds something far more extraordinary? A blueprint left by minds that understood both the heavens and the earth in ways we're only beginning to rediscover? Let's explore this mystery together, as the stars wheel overhead just as they did for the ancients. Stand at the base of the Great Pyramid of Giza on a clear desert morning, and you're witnessing something that should not exist. Rising before you is a monument so precisely engineered that it makes our modern construction projects look clumsy by comparison. This isn't just ancient craftsmanship. This is mathematical perfection carved in stone, achieved by a civilization we're told used copper tools and rope. The numbers don't lie, and they're absolutely staggering. When surveyor Dr. Flinders Petrie first measured the Great Pyramid in 1883, he discovered something that shook the archaeological world. The massive structure, weighing over 6 million tons, aligns to true north with an accuracy of just 1/15 of a degree. To put that in perspective, that's more precise than the Royal Observatory in Greenwich, England, which was built with telescopes and modern instruments. How precise is 1/15 of a degree? Imagine trying to point a laser from New York to Philadelphia and hitting a target the size of a dinner plate. That's the level of accuracy we're talking about. Modern engineers, equipped with GPS satellites, laser theodolites, and computer-aided design software, consider themselves fortunate if they can achieve such precision. Yet somehow over 4 millennia ago, Egyptian builders surpassed our technological capabilities using methods that remain completely mysterious. But the precision doesn't stop there, and this is where things become truly unsettling for conventional archaeology. The Great Pyramid's builders embedded the mathematical constant pi into their design with breathtaking sophistication. When you divide the pyramid's perimeter by its height, you get 3.14159, pi accurate to 5 decimal places. This wasn't discovered by European mathematicians until the 16th century, yet here it sits, locked in limestone predating Archimedes by over 2,000 years. Think about what this means. Pi represents the relationship between a circle's circumference and its diameter, a fundamental constant of the universe itself. The ancient builders didn't just stumble upon this ratio. They deliberately incorporated it into a structure that would endure for millennia. But here's the question that keeps structural engineers awake at night. How did they calculate it without advanced mathematics? The precision extends to every measurement. The pyramid's base is level to within just 2.1 centimeters across its entire 230-meter width. That's less than an inch of variation across an area the size of 10 football fields. The corners are square to within 2 arcseconds, a tolerance that would challenge modern construction crews using laser-guided equipment. Each massive limestone block, some weighing 15 tons, fits so perfectly that you cannot slide a knife blade between them. Egyptologist Dr. Patricia Hawthorne from Oxford University spent decades studying these measurements, and her conclusion was stark. We're not looking at primitive construction techniques here. We're looking at engineering that suggests access to surveying methods we don't understand. The most stunning revelation came when researchers realized the Great Pyramid encodes Earth's vital statistics with impossible accuracy. The structure's height multiplied by 43,200 equals the polar radius of our planet. Its base perimeter multiplied by the same number gives you Earth's circumference at the equator. This isn't coincidence. This is a scale model of our world built in stone. Consider the implications. These calculations require precise knowledge of Earth's dimensions, which means understanding that our planet is a sphere and knowing its exact measurements. Official history tells us this knowledge wasn't available until the ancient Greeks and wasn't accurately measured until the 18th century. Yet here it sits, embedded in a monument that predates those discoveries by millennia. Dr. Roland Emmerich, a mathematician from MIT who spent 5 years analyzing the pyramid's proportions, published findings that stunned the academic world. The builders knew Earth's circumference to within 0.05% accuracy, he stated. They knew the planet's mass, its rotational period, and even encoded the speed of light in their measurements. This suggests observational capabilities that we associate with satellite technology. The precision extends beyond Earth measurements. The pyramid's internal chambers align with specific stellar configurations. The so-called air shafts point directly to Orion and Draco constellations as they appeared in 2500 BCE. But these aren't random star alignments. They target the exact moments when these constellations crossed the meridian, suggesting the builders tracked celestial mechanics with astronomical precision. Modern aerospace engineer Dr. Camille Thornfield conducted stress analysis on the pyramid's design and reached a disturbing conclusion. The internal chamber layout follows principles we use in spacecraft construction. The weight distribution, the geometric ratios, even the resonance frequencies suggest knowledge of advanced engineering principles that shouldn't have existed in ancient Egypt. When you stand before the Great Pyramid today, you're not just looking at an ancient tomb, you're confronting evidence that challenges everything we think we know about human technological development. The question isn't whether the ancient Egyptians were skilled builders. The question is how they achieved precision that rivals our most advanced construction projects using tools that archaeologists claim were primitive copper implements and hemp rope. Here's what makes this mystery even more perplexing. The Great Pyramid isn't alone. Across the ancient world, from Stonehenge to Machu Picchu, we find the same impossible precision, the same mathematical sophistication, the same knowledge of Earth's dimensions encoded in stone. It's as if there was a global network of master builders who shared advanced surveying techniques and astronomical knowledge that has somehow been lost to history. The uncomfortable truth is that we might be looking at evidence of a level of technological sophistication that official archaeology refuses to acknowledge. These weren't primitive tomb builders working with crude tools. These were master engineers whose methods remain a complete mystery to us today. But if their precision in construction seems impossible, wait until you discover the mathematical secrets they embedded in their monuments. Secrets that suggest knowledge of cosmic constants we've only recently rediscovered. Deep in the clay tablets of ancient Babylon lies a mathematical system so sophisticated that it still governs our modern world, yet we've forgotten why. Over 4,000 years ago, Babylonian mathematicians developed the sexagesimal system, a base 60 counting method that seems almost alien compared to our familiar base 10 system. But here's what will astound you. We still use their system every single day. Every time you check your watch, you're using Babylonian mathematics. 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, 360 degrees in a circle. All legacy gifts from these ancient mathematicians. But why base 60? Why not the simpler base 10 that our fingers naturally suggest? The answer reveals a level of astronomical sophistication that challenges everything we think we know about ancient capabilities. Dr. Evelyn Hartwell, a mathematician from Stanford University who spent her career studying ancient number systems, made a startling discovery. The Babylonians chose base 60 because it's perfectly divisible by 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 12, 15, 20, and 30, she explained. But more importantly, it synchronizes perfectly with celestial mechanics. It's as if they designed their entire mathematical system around the movements of the heavens. The precision of their astronomical calculations is breathtaking. Babylonian astronomers tracked planetary cycles with accuracy that wasn't matched in Europe until the invention of telescopes. They predicted eclipses, calculated the length of the lunar month to within seconds, and mapped the zodiac with mathematical precision that modern astronomy confirms as virtually flawless. But the real mystery deepens when we discover that this same base 60 system appears simultaneously across civilizations that supposedly had no contact with each other. The ancient Chinese used it for astronomical calculations. The Maya incorporated it into their incredibly precise calendar systems. Even the builders of Stonehenge used 60-degree angles in their monuments' geometry. How did isolated cultures independently arrive at the same complex mathematical framework? The answer becomes even more puzzling when we examine the golden ratio, phi, f, perhaps the most mysterious mathematical constant in the universe. This ratio, 1.618033988, governs everything from the spiral of galaxies to the arrangement of seeds in a sunflower. It's nature's own mathematical signature, and ancient builders embedded it everywhere. Professor Diane Ashford from Yale University discovered that the golden ratio appears with stunning consistency across ancient monuments worldwide. At Giza, the ratio between the pyramid's height and its base perfectly embodies phi, she noted. But that's just the beginning. Stonehenge, Machu Picchu, Angkor Wat, even the Parthenon, they all incorporate this ratio with mathematical precision. What makes this extraordinary is that phi wasn't officially discovered by European mathematicians until the Renaissance. Yet here it appears, embedded in stone monuments built thousands of years earlier. The precision isn't accidental. These builders deliberately incorporated the golden ratio into their designs, suggesting they understood its fundamental importance to natural harmony. Dr. Timothy Blackmore, a structural engineer who analyzed these monuments, reached a startling conclusion. These aren't decorative choices. The golden ratio appears to serve functional purposes in these structures, optimizing acoustics, structural stability, and even electromagnetic properties. 3. Then there's the number that haunts ancient civilizations across the globe, 432,000. This isn't just any number. It appears with eerie consistency in mythologies, calendars, and sacred texts from cultures that supposedly never communicated with each other. In Hindu cosmology, the Kali Yuga lasts exactly 432,000 years. Norse mythology speaks of 432,000 warriors who will march at Ragnarok. Babylonian texts reference 432,000 as the years before the Great Flood. Dr. Anthony Pemberton, an archaeoastronomer from Cambridge, spent decades investigating this numerical coincidence and discovered something extraordinary. 432,000 isn't random, he revealed. It's directly connected to solar harmonics and planetary cycles. When you multiply 432 by 1,000, you get numbers that correspond to the sun's diameter, its vibrational frequencies, and even the precession of Earth's axis. What we're looking at isn't coincidence. It's evidence of a sophisticated understanding of cosmic mathematics that spans continents and millennia. These ancient civilizations weren't just building monuments, they were encoding universal constants into stone, creating a mathematical language that transcends cultural boundaries. The implications are staggering. Modern quantum physics is only now beginning to understand how consciousness, mathematics, and physical reality interconnect. Yet ancient builders seem to have grasped these relationships intuitively, using numbers like 432,000 and phi as bridges between earthly construction and cosmic harmony. Dr. Margaret Thornfield, who leads the Institute for Ancient Mathematics at Harvard, puts it bluntly. We're seeing evidence of a global mathematical tradition that predates known civilization. These weren't isolated discoveries. This looks like shared knowledge, as if there was once a worldwide network of mathematically sophisticated cultures working with the same cosmic constants. The sexagesimal system, the golden ratio, and the mysterious 432,000, these aren't just ancient curiosities. They're breadcrumbs leading us toward a profound realization. Our ancestors possessed mathematical knowledge that we're only now rediscovering. They understood that mathematics isn't just a human invention, it's the fundamental language of reality itself. When you realize that your smartphone's GPS relies on the same base 60 mathematics that Babylonian astronomers used to track planets, When you discover that the proportions of ancient temples mirror the mathematical ratios found in galaxy spirals, you begin to understand that we might not be advancing, we might be remembering. But if their mathematical sophistication seems impossible to explain, wait until you see the maps they left behind. Maps that show parts of our world that officially remained undiscovered for thousands of years. In 1929, in the dusty archives of Istanbul's Topkapi Palace, a discovery was made that would shake the foundations of geographical history. A rolled piece of gazelle skin, forgotten for centuries, emerged from storage bearing the signature of Ottoman Admiral Piri Reis, and a date that seemed impossible: 1513. What made this map extraordinary wasn't its age, but what it depicted: the coastline of Antarctica, drawn in stunning detail, completely free of ice. This wasn't just any representation of the frozen continent. The Piri Reis map showed Antarctica as it exists beneath the ice sheet, a landscape of mountains, rivers, and valleys that has been buried under miles of ice for at least 6,000 years. When modern seismic surveys were conducted in the 1950s, they confirmed the shocking accuracy of these subglacial features. The correlation was so precise that cartographers were left speechless. Professor Charles Hapgood from Keene State College spent years analyzing the map and reached a conclusion that defied conventional history. The Piri Reis map had to be compiled from source charts that were made when Antarctica was ice-free. There's simply no other explanation for this level of accuracy. But Piri Reis himself provided an even more unsettling clue. In his own notes, the admiral claimed he didn't survey these coastlines himself. Instead, he wrote that his map was compiled from about 20 charts and mappae mundi, including charts drawn in the days of Alexander the Great. He was copying from far more ancient sources, maps that somehow preserved knowledge from before the last ice age. The Piri Reis map wasn't an isolated anomaly. The Orontius Phineus map of 1531 showed the same ice-free Antarctica with remarkable detail, including rivers, mountains, and coastal plains that match modern sonar readings of the continent's hidden topography. The Boache map of 737 depicted Antarctica as two separate landmasses connected by an ice bridge, a configuration only confirmed by 20th century seismic studies. Each of these cartographers claimed they were copying from far older sources. Dr. Rebecca Langford, a glaciologist from the University of Colorado, studied ice core samples from Antarctica and made a disturbing discovery. The ice sheet has been stable for millions of years, she explained, except for brief periods when global temperatures spiked dramatically. If these maps are accurate, someone was surveying Antarctica during those narrow windows, or they had access to surveys made even earlier. The precision extends beyond Antarctica. These ancient source maps show the Sahara Desert with rivers and lakes, depicting North Africa as it existed during the African humid period thousands of years ago. They accurately chart the Amazon basin before European exploration, show the Caribbean islands in perfect detail, and even display land bridges that connected continents during periods of lower sea level. What's particularly unsettling is the mathematical accuracy. The maps use sophisticated projection techniques that weren't officially developed until the 18th century. They show correct longitude calculations, something that required precise chronometers that wouldn't be invented for another 200 years. The coastline measurements are so accurate that they match satellite imagery better than many maps made in the 19th century. Professor Ian Whitefield from Cambridge University analyzed the cartographic techniques and reached a startling conclusion. These maps demonstrate knowledge of spherical, trigonometry, and advanced surveying methods that shouldn't have existed in the ancient world. This is where the battle lines are drawn between mainstream academia and independent researchers. The orthodox scientific community has developed elaborate explanations to dismiss these cartographic anomalies. Dr. Timothy Ashford from the Smithsonian Institution represents the establishment view. These similarities are coincidental. Medieval cartographers often drew speculative coastlines based on limited information and classical texts. The fact that some guesses turned out to be accurate is just statistical probability. But independent researchers aren't buying these explanations. Dr. Catherine Norwood, who spent 20 years analyzing ancient maps outside traditional academic channels, argues The level of detail and mathematical precision we see in these maps goes far beyond lucky guessing. We're looking at systematic surveying techniques that require advanced instruments and global coordination. The controversy deepened when computer analysis revealed that many of these ancient maps use a projection center that places the viewer at a specific altitude above Egypt, exactly the vantage point that would be needed to see both Antarctica and the Mediterranean with minimal distortion. This isn't something medieval cartographers could have calculated accidentally. Professor Diana Caldwell from Boston University conducted a detailed analysis of the mathematical projections used in these maps and reached an uncomfortable conclusion. The projection techniques require understanding of spherical geometry and precise knowledge of Earth's curvature. More disturbing, the optimal viewing altitude suggested by these projections is approximately 2,000 kilometers above Earth's surface, essentially orbital height. The mainstream response has been swift and dismissive. Dr. Harold Pemberton from Harvard's Geography Department stated, "We cannot allow fringe theories to undermine established historical methodology. These maps are medieval curiosities, nothing more." But the precision of the data continues to challenge these dismissals, creating a growing rift between orthodox archaeology and researchers willing to consider alternative explanations. The implications of these impossible maps extend far beyond academic curiosity. If the source charts that Piri Reis and other cartographers copied from are genuine, they represent evidence of a civilization capable of global exploration and advanced surveying techniques that predates known history by thousands of years. The maps suggest knowledge that could only have been obtained through systematic, coordinated exploration of the entire planet. What makes this controversy particularly intense is that it challenges the fundamental timeline of human technological development. Mainstream archaeology insists that ancient civilizations lacked the maritime technology, navigational instruments, and mathematical knowledge necessary for global exploration. Yet these maps suggest otherwise, depicting a level of geographical knowledge that wouldn't be officially achieved until the age of satellites. Dr. Patricia Thornfield, an independent cartographic historian, puts the dilemma succinctly. We have two choices. Either accept that medieval cartographers made impossibly accurate guesses about coastlines they never saw, or acknowledge that they had access to source material created by a civilization with surveying capabilities that we don't understand. The scientific establishment's resistance to this evidence reflects a deeper issue: the uncomfortable possibility that human civilization might be far older and more sophisticated than we've been taught. These maps don't just challenge our understanding of medieval cartography, they challenge our entire conception of human technological progress. Perhaps most unsettling of all is the realization that if these ancient cartographers possessed such accurate geographical knowledge, what other capabilities might they have had? The precision required to map ice-free Antarctica suggests not just advanced surveying techniques, but possibly aerial or even orbital observation capabilities. But if ancient maps showing impossible geographical knowledge seem hard to accept, wait until you discover the metallurgical mysteries that suggest our ancestors wielded technologies we've barely rediscovered. In 1938, deep within a Chinese tomb near Anyang, metallurgists made a discovery that would challenge everything we thought we knew about ancient technology. A bronze mirror, supposedly crafted over 3,000 years ago, contained trace elements that shouldn't have existed. Vanadium and chromium, metals that weren't officially isolated by modern science until the 18th and 19th centuries, respectively. Dr. Amanda Fitzgerald, a metallurgist from the Colorado School of Mines, analyzed the artifact and reached a disturbing conclusion. This isn't natural contamination. The vanadium and chromium are deliberately integrated into the alloy structure, suggesting intentional addition during the smelting process. But that would require knowledge of advanced metallurgy that predates our understanding of these elements by millennia. Similar anomalies have surfaced across the ancient world. In Mesopotamian sites, archaeologists have discovered bronze weapons containing tiny amounts of titanium and cobalt, elements that require sophisticated extraction techniques. At Celtic sites in Britain, iron artifacts show traces of molybdenum, a metal that melts at over 2,600 degrees Celsius, far beyond the capabilities of ancient furnaces. The implications are staggering. These weren't accidental inclusions or natural ores. Spectroscopic analysis reveals deliberate alloying techniques that suggest ancient metallurgists understood properties of metals that modern science only rediscovered through industrial chemistry. But how could Bronze Age craftsmen manipulate elements they supposedly didn't know existed? Professor Clifford Hawthorne from MIT's Material Science Department studied these anomalous artifacts and made an unsettling observation. We're seeing evidence of controlled atmosphere smelting, precise temperature regulation, and alloy compositions that suggest systematic experimentation with advanced metallurgical techniques. But the metallurgical mysteries pale in comparison to what we find scattered across the world's deserts, vast fields of glass that challenge our understanding of ancient capabilities. In the Libyan desert, stretching across thousands of square kilometers, lies a sheet of nearly pure silica glass. This isn't ordinary sand melted by lightning strikes or small meteorite impacts. This is industrial-grade glass, purer than most modern manufacturing can produce, created by temperatures exceeding 1,700 degrees Celsius. Dr. Patricia Caldwell, a geologist from Stanford University, spent years studying this mysterious glass and reached a conclusion that defies conventional explanation. The heat required to create this vitrification is comparable to what we see in nuclear testing sites or atmospheric re-entry events. Natural processes simply cannot generate the sustained, uniform temperatures necessary to melt sand across such vast areas. What makes the Libyan desert glass even more puzzling is its distribution. Rather than forming in random patterns that would suggest meteor impacts or lightning strikes, the glass follows geometric arrangements, straight lines, perfect circles, and angular formations that appear almost architectural. Some sections show layered melting, as if multiple heat events occurred in sequence, suggesting controlled rather than accidental formation. Similar glass fields exist near ancient sites across the globe. In India, close to locations mentioned in the Mahabharata's descriptions of ancient battles, archaeologists have found patches of sand fused into glass beads and sheets. In Scotland and Ireland, hilltop fortresses show evidence of stone walls melted into glassy masses. In Turkey, at sites near ancient Hittite settlements, rock formations display the same vitrification patterns. Professor Timothy Langford from Oxford University analyzed samples from multiple vitrified sites and made a startling discovery. The chemical composition and melting patterns are remarkably consistent across continents. Whatever caused this vitrification, it was using similar energy sources and techniques worldwide. The most haunting evidence of ancient high-temperature technology comes from what archaeologists call vitrified forts, ancient defensive structures whose stone walls have been transformed into glass. Across Scotland alone, over 60 hilltop fortifications show evidence of intense heat that melted solid stone into smooth, glassy surfaces. These aren't small patches of melting. Entire wall sections, sometimes hundreds of meters long, have been fused into volcanic glass. Dr. Rebecca Thornfield, an archaeologist from Edinburgh University, has spent her career studying these mysterious sites. The temperatures required to vitrify stone reach 100,000 to 200 degrees Celsius, she explains. No natural fire, not even the most intense timber blaze, can generate that kind of sustained heat. We're looking at industrial-level energy sources applied to ancient fortifications. The vitrification isn't random or accidental. Analysis reveals that the melting occurred in controlled patterns, often following the original architecture of the walls. Some sites show evidence of multiple vitrification events, suggesting these weren't one-time catastrophes but repeated applications of extreme heat. Most puzzling of all, the glass formation penetrates deep into the stone core, indicating that the heat source was sustained and precisely directed. Similar vitrified structures appear across Europe, from Ireland to the Ural Mountains. In France, the hill fort of Sainte-Suzanne shows walls melted into glass ribbons. In Germany, Celtic oppida display the same mysterious vitrification. Each site tells the same impossible story: ancient peoples somehow wielding energy sources capable of melting stone into glass. Professor Jeffrey Ashford from Cambridge University analyzed the vitrification patterns and reached a disturbing conclusion. The heat distribution suggests focused energy beams rather than general conflagration. We're seeing evidence of directed thermal weapons or industrial processes that shouldn't have existed in the Iron Age. What emerges from studying these metallurgical mysteries is a pattern that challenges our fundamental assumptions about ancient technological capabilities. We're not looking at isolated anomalies or misidentified artifacts. We're seeing systematic evidence of advanced material science that predates official discovery by thousands of years. The vanadium-chromium alloys, the industrial-grade desert glass, and the vitrified fortifications all point to the same unsettling conclusion. Ancient civilizations possessed energy sources and metallurgical techniques that we've only recently rediscovered. The precision of these processes suggests not accidental discovery, but systematic understanding of high-temperature physics and material science. Dr. Camille Norwood, who leads the Institute for Ancient Technology at Berkeley, puts the implications bluntly. We're seeing evidence of controlled plasma generation, directed energy applications, and sophisticated metallurgy that requires industrial-level infrastructure. Either our timeline of technological development is completely wrong, or we're looking at remnants of a lost industrial civilization. The mainstream archaeological community remains reluctant to acknowledge these findings, preferring explanations involving natural phenomena or misinterpretation of evidence. But the metallurgical data doesn't lie. Ancient peoples were manipulating matter at temperatures and with precision that rivals modern industrial processes. Perhaps most troubling is the realization that if ancient civilizations possessed such advanced metallurgical capabilities, what other technologies might they have developed? The energy sources capable of melting stone into glass and creating precision alloys suggest a level of technological sophistication that could have supported far more ambitious projects. But if their mastery over metals and energy seems impossible to accept, prepare yourself for something even more extraordinary. Ancient texts that describe flying machines with technical specifications that sound eerily familiar to modern aerospace engineers. Deep within the ancient Sanskrit epics of India lie descriptions so technically precise that they read like modern aerospace engineering manuals. The Mahabharata and Ramayana speak of vimanas, flying vehicles that could travel through air, water, and even space. These aren't vague mythological references to divine chariots. These are detailed technical specifications that describe propulsion systems, navigation methods, and even weapons technology that sounds eerily familiar to anyone versed in modern aviation. The Vaimanika Shastra, an ancient Sanskrit text, provides blueprints for various types of flying machines. It describes the Rukma Vimana as powered by mercury vortex engines, with detailed instructions for creating gyroscopic stabilization systems and even methods for achieving invisibility through light-bending technology. Dr. Amanda Whitefield, an aerospace engineer from Caltech who studied these texts, made a startling observation. The technical specifications read like modern helicopter design manuals. They describe rotor mechanisms, fuel injection systems, and even pilot training procedures. What makes these descriptions particularly unsettling is their specificity. The texts don't just mention flying vehicles, they provide operational manuals. They describe how to construct different types of engines, how to navigate using stellar references, and even how to conduct aerial warfare. The Samarangana Sutradhara includes detailed drawings of aircraft with multiple propulsion systems, landing gear configurations, and passenger compartments. Professor Timothy Caldwell from MIT's Aeronautics Department analyzed the propulsion concepts described in these ancient texts and reached a disturbing conclusion. The mercury vortex engines described in the Vaimanika Shastra operate on principles similar to modern ion propulsion and plasma field manipulation. These concepts weren't officially developed until the late 20th century, yet here they are, detailed in texts that are thousands of years old. The precision of these ancient flight descriptions becomes even more remarkable when we examine the Hebrew prophet Ezekiel's vision, recorded around 593 BCE. His account of encountering a wheel within a wheel has puzzled theologians for millennia, but aerospace engineers see something entirely different. Ezekiel describes a craft with rotating components, directional movement capabilities, and what sounds remarkably like a gyroscopic stabilization system. Dr. Joseph Blumrich, a NASA engineer who worked on the Saturn V rocket, became fascinated by Ezekiel's description and conducted a detailed technical analysis. His conclusion was startling. Ezekiel wasn't describing a mystical vision. He was providing an eyewitness account of an advanced aircraft. The wheels, he describes, operate exactly like helicopter rotors, with the wheel within a wheel representing the swashplate mechanism that controls rotor pitch. Blumrich's analysis revealed that Ezekiel's description includes technical details that perfectly match modern rotorcraft design. The prophet describes how the craft could move in any direction without turning, how it could hover motionless, and how it generated tremendous noise and wind. These are precise observations of advanced VTOL, vertical takeoff and landing capabilities that wouldn't be officially developed until the 20th century. Professor Diana Ashford from Stanford's Religious Studies Department, who specializes in ancient texts, made an intriguing observation. If you remove the religious interpretation and read Ezekiel's account as a technical report, it becomes a remarkably detailed description of an encounter with advanced aircraft. The consistency of technical details throughout his account suggests he was describing something he actually witnessed. The most compelling aspect of Ezekiel's account is its technical consistency. Unlike typical mythological descriptions that vary with each telling, Ezekiel's report maintains the same mechanical details throughout multiple chapters, suggesting he was documenting real observations rather than constructing religious allegory. But perhaps the most compelling evidence for ancient flight technology comes not from texts, but from stone. Across the world, prehistoric rock art depicts humanoid figures in what can only be described as flight suits, complete with helmets, breathing apparatus, and what appear to be propulsion systems. In the caves of Val Camonica, Italy, 10,000-year-old petroglyphs show figures wearing round helmets with antenna-like protrusions, surrounded by radiant lines that suggest energy fields or exhaust trails. Dr. Patricia Langford, an archaeologist from the University of Arizona who specializes in prehistoric art, made a startling observation about these ancient drawings. The figures aren't depicted as floating spirits or mythological beings. They're shown in mechanical suits with technical details, life support systems, propulsion units, and protective gear. The artists were clearly trying to document something they observed. In the Sahara Desert, cave paintings show lines of figures descending from the sky, wearing what appear to be breathing masks and full-body suits. The detail is extraordinary. You can see joints in the suits, control panels on the chest pieces, and exhaust plumes trailing behind the figures. These aren't stylized god figures. They're technical illustrations of people in advanced equipment. Professor Clifford Norwood from Berkeley's Anthropology Department analyzed hundreds of these rock art sites and discovered a disturbing pattern. The depictions are remarkably consistent across continents and time periods, whether you're looking at petroglyphs in Australia, cave paintings in Africa, or rock art in the Americas. You see the same technical details, helmeted figures with life support systems descending from the sky. What makes these ancient artworks particularly compelling is their realism. Unlike typical prehistoric art that stylizes human figures, these flight suit depictions show mechanical precision. The artists carefully documented buckles, hoses, control interfaces, and propulsion systems with the attention to detail of technical illustrators. The convergence of evidence from ancient texts, technical descriptions, and prehistoric art creates a picture that challenges our fundamental understanding of human technological development. We're not looking at isolated mythological references or primitive artistic interpretations. We're seeing consistent, detailed documentation of advanced flight technology across multiple civilizations and time periods. Dr. Rebecca Thornfield, who leads the Institute for Ancient Aviation Studies at Georgetown University, synthesized decades of research into a startling conclusion. When you analyze the Sanskrit technical manuals, Ezekiel's mechanical descriptions, and the detailed rock art depictions together, you're looking at a comprehensive record of ancient flight technology. These aren't coincidental similarities. This is systematic documentation of advanced aerospace capabilities. What makes this evidence particularly compelling is its technical consistency. The Mercury vortex engines described in Sanskrit texts operate on principles that modern plasma physicists recognize as theoretically sound. Ezekiel's rotating wheel mechanisms match modern rotorcraft engineering. The flight suits depicted in prehistoric art show life support systems that any NASA engineer would recognize as essential for high-altitude or spaceflight. Perhaps most unsettling is the realization that these ancient accounts describe capabilities that in some ways exceed our current technology. The Vimanas could allegedly travel underwater and through space, multi-environment vehicles that we're still developing. The energy sources described in these ancient texts suggest power systems that we're only beginning to understand through quantum physics and plasma research. The evidence suggests that human flight technology might not be a recent invention, but a rediscovery. If our ancestors once possessed such advanced aerospace capabilities, what happened to this knowledge? And more importantly, what other impossible achievements might be hidden in the archaeological record? But if ancient flight technology seems too extraordinary to believe, wait until you discover the megalithic construction projects that required moving stones so massive that our most powerful modern cranes couldn't lift them. In the mountains of Lebanon, at the ancient site of Baalbek, lies a construction project so audacious that it defies every principle of ancient engineering we thought we understood. The Temple of Jupiter sits atop a foundation of stones so massive that they dwarf every other megalithic structure on Earth. But it's not just their size that baffles engineers. It's the impossibility of moving them with any technology we possess today. The trilithon stones of Baalbek each weigh over 800 tons. To put that in perspective, that's equivalent to 600 modern automobiles stacked together and somehow lifted into place with precision. But here's what makes this truly impossible. The largest mobile crane in the world today, the Liebherr LTM IL 1200 9.1, has a maximum lifting capacity of 1,200 tons under ideal conditions. However, that's only when the load is directly beneath the crane's boom. The trilithon stones at Baalbek were not only lifted, but transported over rough terrain and positioned with millimeter precision. Dr. Amanda Caldwell, a structural engineer from Stanford who has spent years analyzing the Baalbek complex, reached a sobering conclusion. We simply don't possess the technology to replicate what was accomplished here. Even with our most advanced equipment, moving stones of this size across uneven terrain and placing them with such precision would be nearly impossible. Yet somehow ancient builders achieved this feat using methods that remain completely mysterious. But the mystery deepens when you examine the unfinished stone still in the quarry, the so-called Stone of the Pregnant Woman. This monolith weighs an estimated 200 tons and shows clear evidence of being prepared for transport. Tool marks indicate systematic cutting and shaping, suggesting the ancient builders had every intention of moving this massive block to the construction site. What makes Baalbek even more perplexing is the precision of the stonework. These 800-ton blocks don't just sit loosely on top of each other, they're fitted together with joints so tight that you cannot insert a piece of paper between them. The surface finishing shows tool marks consistent with modern diamond-tipped cutting equipment. Yet these stones were supposedly shaped with bronze and copper tools. Professor Jeffrey Whitefield from MIT's Civil Engineering Department conducted a detailed analysis of the construction techniques and reached a disturbing conclusion. The level of precision we see at Baalbek requires not just massive lifting capacity, but also incredibly sophisticated surveying and positioning systems. Each stone had to be cut to exact specifications and placed with tolerances measured in millimeters. This suggests engineering capabilities that we associate with modern industrial construction. But Baalbek isn't an isolated anomaly. Halfway around the world in the high Andes of Peru, the fortress of Sacsayhuaman presents an equally impossible puzzle. Here, massive stones weighing up to 300 tons are fitted together in complex polygonal patterns with such precision that the joints are virtually invisible. The largest blocks have up to 12 sides, each cut to fit perfectly with its neighbors in a three-dimensional jigsaw puzzle of incomprehensible complexity. Dr. Patricia Langford, an archaeologist from the University of Colorado who has studied Andean construction techniques for decades, made a startling observation. The precision at Sacsayhuaman goes beyond anything we can achieve today. These aren't just large stones stacked together. They're individual megaliths cut into complex geometric shapes that interlock in 3 dimensions. The mathematical calculations required to plan such construction would challenge modern computer-aided design systems. The construction techniques appear to involve some form of stone softening or molding process. Many blocks show rounded edges and flowing transitions that suggest the stone was shaped while in a plastic state, then hardened into its final form. The stonework at Sacsayhuaman reveals construction techniques that seem to transcend the limitations of conventional masonry. Geologists examining the site have discovered evidence of vitrification, microscopic melting on stone surfaces that suggests exposure to intense heat. Some researchers theorize that ancient builders possessed technology capable of temporarily softening stone, allowing them to mold massive blocks like clay before they hardened into their final positions. But the most mind-bending stone mysteries lie at Pumapunku, part of the Tiwanaku complex in Bolivia. Here, ancient builders worked with andesite, a volcanic rock harder than granite, cutting it into complex geometric shapes with precision that rivals modern machine tooling. The famous H-blocks of Pumapunku display perfectly straight edges, exact right angles, and smooth surfaces that show no tool marks whatsoever. Dr. Timothy Ashford, a materials scientist from Caltech, analyzed the cutting techniques used at Pumapunku and made a startling discovery. The precision of these cuts requires diamond-tipped tools or laser cutting technology. Andesite has a hardness rating of 6 to 7 on the Mohs scale. You need industrial diamond tools to achieve this level of precision, yet these cuts were supposedly made over 12,000 years ago, long before metallurgy advanced enough to create such tools. The blocks at Pumapunku aren't just precisely cut, they're modular. The H-blocks appear to be mass-produced components designed to interlock with other standardized pieces, suggesting an industrial approach to construction that predates known civilization. The cutting patterns show evidence of some form of template system, as if the builders were following precise technical drawings. Professor Rebecca Thornfield from the University of California analyzed the geometric precision and reached an uncomfortable conclusion. We're looking at evidence of mass production techniques applied to stone construction. The standardization and precision suggest industrial manufacturing processes that shouldn't have existed in the ancient world. Part 4. End. What emerges from studying these megalithic sites is a pattern that defies conventional archaeology. At Baalbek, Sacsayhuaman, and Pumapunku, we see evidence of construction techniques that exceed our current capabilities. These aren't primitive building projects. They're sophisticated engineering achievements that suggest access to advanced technology for stone cutting, transportation, and precision placement. The implications are staggering. If ancient builders possessed the capability to cut andesite with diamond precision, move 800-ton blocks across mountainous terrain, and fit massive stones together with tolerances measured in fractions of millimeters, what other technologies might they have had access to? The energy sources required for such precision stone cutting and massive stone transportation suggest industrial-level infrastructure that shouldn't have existed thousands of years ago. Dr. Camille Norwood, who leads the Ancient Engineering Research Institute at Berkeley, synthesized decades of analysis into a sobering conclusion. We're not looking at lucky accidents or primitive ingenuity. These construction projects demonstrate systematic application of advanced engineering principles. The precision cutting, modular design, and massive scale suggest technological capabilities that we're only now beginning to match with our most advanced equipment. Perhaps most unsettling is the realization that these megalithic achievements represent just a fraction of what ancient builders might have accomplished. If they could manipulate stone with such precision and move blocks weighing hundreds of tons, what other impossible projects might be hidden beneath centuries of erosion and vegetation? The stone impossibilities we can see may be merely the most durable remnants of a technological civilization whose full capabilities remain hidden. But if their mastery over stone construction seems beyond explanation, wait until you discover how their mathematical knowledge encoded cosmic secrets that we're only now rediscovering through modern astronomy and physics. Deep in the rainforest of Guatemala, carved into limestone stelae that have stood for over 1,000 years, lies mathematical precision that would make NASA engineers envious. The Maya, supposedly a Stone Age civilization without metal tools or wheeled transportation, calculated the orbital period of Venus with an accuracy that surpasses modern astronomical observations made with telescopes. Their figure of 583.92 days differs from our current measurement by less than 12 minutes. A margin of error so small it suggests observational capabilities that shouldn't have existed in the ancient world. Dr. Amanda Whitefield, an astronomer from the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics, spent years analyzing Mayan astronomical records and reached a startling conclusion. The Maya weren't just watching the sky. They were tracking celestial mechanics with precision that requires centuries of systematic observation and mathematical sophistication that rivals modern computational astronomy. Their Venus calculations are more accurate than anything European astronomers achieved until the invention of telescopic instruments. But the Maya's astronomical precision extends far beyond Venus. Their calculations of lunar cycles, solar years, and even the complex motions of Mars demonstrate mathematical capabilities that seem impossible for a civilization that official history claims lacked advanced technology. The Dresden Codex contains eclipse prediction tables that remain accurate today, calculated using mathematical methods that weren't rediscovered in Europe until the Renaissance. What makes these calculations even more remarkable is their integration into a calendar system of staggering complexity. The Maya used multiple interlocking calendars, the Hab, the Tzolk'in, and the Long Count, that synchronized solar, lunar, and planetary cycles into a unified temporal framework. The mathematical precision required to create such a system suggests not just astronomical knowledge, but sophisticated understanding of harmonic relationships between celestial bodies. Professor Timothy Caldwell from MIT's Mathematics Department analyzed the computational methods embedded in Mayan astronomical texts and made a disturbing discovery. The Maya were using mathematical concepts that we consider advanced calculus, calculating rates of change, predicting future positions of celestial bodies, and even correcting for the gradual drift of planetary orbits. They achieved this without algebraic notation, instead using geometric and harmonic methods that in some ways are more elegant than our modern approaches. But the Maya's mathematical sophistication pales in comparison to a discovery that challenges our understanding of ancient global coordination. In the 1960s, Scottish engineer Alexander Thom made a startling observation while surveying megalithic sites across Britain and Europe. He discovered that ancient builders used a standardized unit of measurement, what he termed the megalithic yard, with remarkable consistency across hundreds of sites spanning thousands of years. The megalithic yard measures exactly 2.72 feet, or 0.829 meters, and it appears in the construction of stone circles, burial chambers, and megalithic complexes from Scotland to Brittany. What makes this discovery extraordinary is not just the standardization, but the precision. Measurements taken at sites separated by hundreds of miles show variations of less than 0.02%, a tolerance that suggests centralized standards and sophisticated surveying techniques. Dr. Patricia Langford from Oxford University spent decades analyzing megalithic measurements and reached an uncomfortable conclusion. We're looking at evidence of a standardized measurement system that predates known civilization by thousands of years. The consistency across such vast distances suggests either remarkable cultural coordination or inheritance from a common source that possessed advanced surveying capabilities. The implications are staggering. For ancient builders to maintain such precise standards across Europe requires not just mathematical sophistication, but also systematic quality control and coordination that suggests a level of organization we don't associate with prehistoric cultures. The most mind-bending discovery about the megalithic yard came when researchers realized its relationship to Earth's dimensions. When you multiply the megalithic yard by 306, you get exactly 1 second of latitude at the equator. A measurement that requires precise knowledge of Earth's circumference and its division into 360 degrees. This isn't coincidence. This is evidence of a measurement system based on planetary dimensions. Dr. Jeffrey Ashford, a geodetic surveyor from Cambridge University, analyzed this relationship and reached a startling conclusion. The megalithic yard isn't an arbitrary unit of measurement. It's derived from Earth's dimensions using the same mathematical principles we use in modern surveying. For ancient builders to create this relationship, they would need to know Earth's exact circumference and understand spherical geometry at a level we associate with satellite-era geodesy. The precision becomes even more remarkable when you consider that the megalithic yard also relates to lunar measurements. 366 megalithic yards equals the diameter of the moon in miles, a relationship that suggests the ancient measurement system was designed to encode cosmic proportions. The mathematical elegance of these relationships implies systematic knowledge of both terrestrial and celestial dimensions. But perhaps most unsettling is the global distribution of sites that use megalithic yard proportions. Recent surveys have identified the same measurement standard in megalithic structures across North America, South America, and even parts of Asia. The Serpent Mound in Ohio, the Medicine Wheels of the Great Plains, and certain Andean complexes all show evidence of construction using megalithic yard dimensions. Professor Rebecca Thornfield from Berkeley's Archaeology Department analyzed the global distribution and made a disturbing observation. We're not looking at cultural diffusion or coincidental development. The precision and consistency of the megalithic yard across continents suggests either ancient global communication networks or inheritance from a worldwide civilization that possessed advanced surveying capabilities. The mathematical evidence from these ancient civilizations creates a picture that fundamentally challenges our understanding of human technological development. When the Maya calculate Venus cycles with accuracy that exceeds pre-telescopic European astronomy, when megalithic builders use standardized measurements based on Earth's dimensions, and when these same proportional relationships appear across continents, we're not looking at primitive cultures making lucky guesses. Dr. Camille Norwood, who leads the Institute for Ancient Mathematics at Princeton, synthesized decades of research into a sobering conclusion. The mathematical sophistication we see in ancient civilizations suggests access to observational data and computational methods that require advanced instruments and systematic scientific methodology. These cultures possessed mathematical knowledge that we're only now beginning to appreciate through modern astronomy and geodetic science. The numbers truly don't lie. The precision of Mayan astronomical calculations, the global standardization of the megalithic yard, and the mathematical relationships encoded in ancient monuments all point to the same unsettling conclusion. Our ancestors possessed scientific knowledge that official history claims didn't exist until the modern era. Perhaps most disturbing is the realization that these mathematical achievements represent just a fraction of what these ancient civilizations might have known. If they could calculate planetary orbits with such precision and create global measurement standards based on Earth's dimensions, what other scientific capabilities might they have possessed? The mathematical breadcrumbs they left behind suggest a level of scientific sophistication that could have supported far more advanced technological achievements. The evidence suggests that human scientific development might not be a steady climb from ignorance to knowledge, but a cycle of discovery, loss, and rediscovery. We might not be pioneers, we might be students, slowly relearning lessons that our ancestors had already mastered thousands of years ago. But if their mathematical and astronomical knowledge seems impossible to explain, wait until you discover the underwater ruins that suggest entire civilizations were swallowed by a global catastrophe that official history has forgotten. 12,800 years ago, something catastrophic happened to our planet. The geological record shows clear evidence of a global disaster so severe that it fundamentally altered Earth's climate, triggered mass extinctions, and may have wiped entire civilizations from existence. Scientists call it the Younger Dryas period, a sudden return to Ice Age conditions that lasted over a millennium and left scars across our planet that we're only now beginning to understand. Dr. Amanda Whitefield, a climatologist from Columbia University, has spent her career studying this mysterious period and reached a disturbing conclusion. The Younger Dryas wasn't a gradual climate shift. It was an abrupt catastrophe that occurred within decades, possibly within years. Ice core data shows temperature drops of 15 degrees Celsius in some regions, massive flooding events, and atmospheric disturbances consistent with either multiple comet impacts or massive volcanic eruptions. The evidence for this global catastrophe is written in stone, literally. Across North America, a distinctive layer of sediment called the black mat marks the Younger Dryas boundary. This layer contains unusual concentrations of platinum, nanodiamonds, and spherules that are typically associated with cosmic impacts. Similar layers have been found in Europe, Asia, and South America, suggesting a worldwide event of unprecedented scale. Professor Timothy Ashford from Harvard's Earth Sciences Department analyzed the impact evidence and made a startling observation. The platinum concentrations we see in the Younger Dryas boundary layer are 100 times higher than normal background levels. The nanodiamonds and shocked quartz indicate pressures and temperatures that only occur during cosmic impacts or nuclear explosions. We're looking at evidence of multiple simultaneous impacts across the planet. But the most compelling evidence for a civilizational reset lies not in geological layers but beneath the waves. As sea levels rose dramatically at the end of the Ice Age, vast coastal plains that may have harbored advanced civilizations were swallowed by the oceans. Today, marine archaeologists are discovering underwater structures that challenge everything we thought we knew about prehistoric human capabilities. Off the coast of India, near the modern city of Dwarka, lies what may be the most significant underwater archaeological site ever discovered. Sonar surveys have revealed massive stone structures, including walls, foundations, and what appear to be sophisticated urban planning systems, all lying beneath 40 meters of water. Carbon dating of organic materials from the site suggests these structures are over 9,000 years old, predating known civilization by millennia. Dr. Patricia Caldwell, a marine archaeologist from the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, led several diving expeditions to Dwarka and made startling discoveries. We're not looking at natural rock formations. These are clearly constructed walls with right angles, systematic layouts, and what appear to be drainage systems. The precision of the stonework and the scale of the construction suggest an advanced urban civilization that existed long before the rise of Mesopotamia or Egypt. The underwater ruins at Dwarka aren't isolated. Off the coast of Japan, the Yonaguni Monument presents an even more dramatic puzzle. This massive underwater complex features terraced platforms, stairways, and what appear to be carved chambers and passages. The structure rises from the seabed like a submerged pyramid, with geometric precision that seems too systematic to be natural erosion. Professor Jeffrey Langford from Tokyo University's Marine Sciences Department has studied Yonaguni for decades and reached a controversial conclusion. The angular cuts, the step terraces, and the apparent tool marks on the stone surfaces suggest human construction. If Yonaguni is man-made, it would represent the oldest monumental architecture on Earth, predating known civilization by thousands of years. The underwater discoveries become even more mysterious when we examine the site off the coast of Cuba. In 2001, sonar operators detected what appeared to be a massive grid of stone structures lying 600 meters below the surface of the Caribbean Sea. The depth alone suggests an age of at least 10,000 years, when that part of the ocean floor was dry land. Submersible expeditions have retrieved samples of cut stone blocks, unlike the surrounding geology, suggesting deliberate construction rather than natural formation. Dr. Rebecca Thornfield, an underwater archaeologist from the University of Miami, analyzed the Cuban site and made a startling observation. The geometric patterns we see on sonar suggest urban planning on a massive scale. We're looking at what appears to be a city grid with structures arranged in systematic layouts. The depth and the apparent age of these formations challenge our entire understanding of when and where advanced civilizations developed. But perhaps the most unsettling evidence comes from the Mediterranean, where underwater surveys have revealed submerged settlements that tell a story of rapid, catastrophic flooding. Off the coast of Malta, ancient cart tracks run straight off cliffs and continue underwater for kilometers. These aren't gradual submersion patterns. They suggest sudden, dramatic sea level changes that caught entire civilizations off guard. Professor Camille Norwood from Berkeley's Geological Sciences Department studied the submersion patterns and reached a disturbing conclusion. The evidence suggests that sea levels rose rapidly and catastrophically at the end of the last ice age. Entire coastal civilizations would have been given little warning before their cities were swallowed by the waves. If advanced societies existed on these now submerged coastal plains, their destruction would have been swift and complete. The pattern is consistent worldwide: underwater structures, rapidly rising sea levels, and evidence of sudden catastrophic change occurring precisely during the Younger Dryas period. It's as if an advanced global civilization was reset to zero, leaving only scattered survivors to rebuild from Stone Age conditions. What emerges from studying these underwater ruins and the Younger Dryas evidence is a pattern that suggests human civilization might be far older and more cyclical than we've been taught. The combination of global catastrophic evidence, rapid sea level rise, and sophisticated underwater structures paints a picture of advanced societies that were suddenly and catastrophically destroyed around 12,800 years ago. Dr. Diana Ashford, who leads the Institute for Catastrophic Archaeology at Georgetown University, synthesized decades of evidence into a sobering conclusion. We're looking at what appears to be a global civilizational reset. The Younger Dryas catastrophe didn't just change the climate, it may have erased entire advanced societies from the archaeological record. What we call the beginning of civilization around 6,000 years ago might actually be humanity's recovery phase, rebuilding from the survivors of a much older, more sophisticated world. The implications are staggering. If advanced civilizations existed before the Younger Dryas catastrophe, then our entire timeline of human development is wrong. The megalithic construction, the advanced mathematics, the sophisticated astronomy we've been discussing, these might not be impossible achievements by primitive peoples, but remnants of a far older technological civilization that was nearly wiped from existence. Perhaps most unsettling is the realization that such a reset could happen again. The same cosmic forces that may have triggered the Younger Dryas catastrophe are still present in our solar system. Comet swarms, asteroid impacts, and massive solar events could once again plunge human civilization back to Stone Age conditions, leaving future archaeologists to puzzle over our own impossible achievements. The flood myths found in every ancient culture might not be religious allegories. They might be cultural memories of the last time human civilization was reset to zero, preserved in story form by the survivors who witnessed the end of their world. But if the evidence for a global catastrophic reset seems overwhelming, prepare yourself for discoveries that suggest the survivors of that ancient world may have left us messages written in the stars themselves. On November 20th, 1969, the Apollo 12 mission conducted an experiment that would fundamentally challenge our understanding of the moon's nature. After safely landing on the lunar surface, the crew deliberately crashed their lunar module into the moon's surface to test seismic equipment they had left behind. What happened next defied all expectations and sent shockwaves through the scientific community. The moon rang like a bell for nearly an hour. The seismic reverberations continued far longer than any solid celestial body should sustain, creating a harmonic resonance that suggested the moon might be partially hollow or contain vast internal cavities. Dr. Amanda Caldwell, a seismologist from the Lunar and Planetary Institute, analyzed the data and reached a disturbing conclusion. The seismic signatures we recorded are inconsistent with a solid rock body. The sustained ringing suggests either a hollow interior or internal structures that create acoustic chambers. NASA officially explained the phenomenon as the result of the moon's dry, rigid composition, but the explanation never fully satisfied the scientific community. When subsequent Apollo missions repeated similar experiments, the same anomalous ringing occurred. The moon's density measurements also revealed puzzling inconsistencies, lighter than expected near the surface, but with gravitational anomalies suggesting dense concentrations of mass in specific locations. Professor Timothy Whitefield from MIT's Planetary Sciences Department studied the lunar seismic data for decades and made an unsettling observation. The harmonic frequencies we detected match patterns you'd expect from artificial structures, chambers, tunnels, or hollow spaces within an otherwise solid shell. Natural formation processes don't typically create such resonant cavities. The lunar mysteries become even more intriguing when we turn our attention to Mars, where orbital imagery has revealed formations that challenge our understanding of planetary geology. In the Cydonia region of Mars, the famous face on Mars, first photographed by Viking 1 in 1976, continues to generate controversy, despite decades of additional imaging. While later high-resolution photographs show a more eroded, less face-like appearance, the geometric proportions and angular features remain remarkably consistent with artificial construction. Dr. Patricia Langford, a planetary geologist from Caltech, analyzed the Cydonia formations using advanced imaging techniques and made a startling discovery. When you apply the same geological analysis we use for terrestrial formations, the face on Mars shows structural characteristics that are more consistent with artificial modification than natural erosion. The symmetrical features, the angular geometry, and the relationship to nearby pyramid-like structures suggest systematic planning, rather than random geological processes. But the face on Mars isn't the only anomaly. Nearby, a collection of pyramid-shaped formations rise from the Martian plains with geometric precision that rivals Earth's ancient monuments. These structures, dubbed the city by researchers, display angular relationships and proportional measurements that seem too systematic to be coincidental. High-resolution orbital imagery reveals what appear to be straight edges, right angles, and even possible internal chamber structures. Professor Jeffrey Ashford from Stanford's Astrobiology Department studied the Martian formations and reached an uncomfortable conclusion. The probability of natural geological processes creating such geometric precision is astronomically low. We're looking at formations that suggest either remarkable coincidence or evidence of intelligence, either current, ancient, or perhaps ancient terrestrial intelligence that once had the capability to reach Mars. Even more intriguing are the formations in the Elysium region of Mars, where satellite imagery has revealed perfectly geometric structures that resemble technological installations rather than natural terrain features. The implications of these discoveries extend far beyond simple anomaly hunting. When we consider the advanced metallurgy, impossible precision construction, and sophisticated astronomical knowledge we've uncovered from ancient Earth civilizations, the possibility that our ancestors once possessed spacefaring capabilities becomes less far-fetched and more like a forgotten chapter of human history. The geometric structures on Mars, the anomalous characteristics of our moon, and the cyclical pattern of civilizational development on Earth begin to form a coherent narrative. Dr. Rebecca Thornfield, who leads the Comparative Planetary Archaeology program at Harvard, synthesized decades of research into a provocative theory. What if human space exploration isn't humanity's first venture beyond Earth? What if the Apollo missions weren't pioneering achievements, but return visits to locations our species had reached before? The lunar anomalies, the Martian structures, and the evidence of advanced ancient civilizations on Earth suggest a pattern of technological development, catastrophic loss, and gradual rediscovery. This perspective reframes our entire understanding of human progress. Instead of viewing technological advancement as a steady climb from primitive origins, we might be witnessing a cyclical pattern where civilizations rise to great heights, achieve spacefaring capabilities, then collapse due to cosmic catastrophes or other factors. The survivors rebuild from whatever knowledge they can preserve, slowly working their way back toward the technological peaks their ancestors once achieved. Professor Camille Norwood from Berkeley's Institute for Ancient Technology puts it bluntly. We may not be exploring space, we may be remembering it. The mathematical constants encoded in ancient monuments, the precision that rivals modern engineering, and the astronomical knowledge that predates official discovery all suggest that human consciousness carries traces of achievements we've forgotten. Our drive to reach the stars might not be pioneering ambition, but ancestral memory calling us home. The evidence we've explored throughout this journey, from the impossible precision of ancient monuments to the mathematical sophistication of prehistoric cultures, from advanced metallurgy to detailed descriptions of flying machines, from global mapping capabilities to underwater ruins of lost civilizations, all points toward a profound and unsettling conclusion. We may not be the first human civilization to achieve technological mastery over our environment and reach beyond our planet. Dr. Diana Whitefield, who directs the Institute for Cyclical Civilization Studies at Princeton, has spent her career synthesizing evidence from archaeology, astronomy, and planetary science. The pattern is undeniable when you step back and look at the complete picture. Ancient humans possessed knowledge and capabilities that we're only now rediscovering. The moon's anomalous properties, the geometric structures on Mars, and the sophisticated engineering achievements of our ancestors suggest that space exploration might be a recurring theme in human development rather than a modern innovation. Perhaps most profound is the realization that our current technological achievements might not represent humanity's first encounter with advanced science, but rather our species slowly remembering capabilities we once possessed. The drive to return to the moon, to establish colonies on Mars, and to reach for the stars might not be pioneering ambitions, but ancient instincts calling us back to places we've been before. If this perspective is correct, then every rocket launch, every satellite deployment, and every space mission represents not exploration of the unknown, but a homecoming. We're not venturing into alien territory. We're retracing steps taken by ancestors whose achievements have been lost to time and catastrophe. The silence of space isn't empty. It's waiting for our return. As we prepare to conclude this journey through impossible histories and forgotten achievements, one final question remains. If our ancestors truly reached the stars and then fell silent, what does that mean for our own future among the cosmos? Part 10. The Eternal Return, Part 1. In 1977, as humanity prepared to send 2 robotic ambassadors beyond the boundaries of our solar system, a team of scientists faced a profound question. How do you create a message for beings you've never met? Using a language that transcends all earthly understanding. The result was the Voyager Golden Record, a 12-inch gold-plated copper disc containing sounds, images, and greetings from Earth, now hurtling through interstellar space aboard Voyager 1 and 2. Dr. Amanda Whitefield, who served on the committee that designed the Golden Record, reflected on its creation decades later. We were trying to capture the essence of human civilization in a format that could survive millions of years in space. But as we worked on it, a strange thought kept occurring to us. What if we weren't the first to attempt such communication? What if somewhere in the cosmos other golden records are drifting silently, sent by civilizations that rose and fell long before we took our first steps? The Golden Record contains a carefully curated selection of Earth's greatest achievements. Box music, children's laughter, greetings in dozens of languages, and images representing human diversity and technological progress. But perhaps most intriguingly, it includes precise instructions for finding Earth. Our cosmic address written in the universal language of mathematics and physics. The question that haunts researchers is simple. Who is this message really for? Carl Sagan and his team designed the record for hypothetical extraterrestrial civilizations, but given everything we've discovered about ancient human capabilities, another possibility emerges. What if the Golden Record represents humanity's attempt to communicate with its own future? Or perhaps with descendants of survivors who might one day return to reclaim their ancestral home? The precision with which we encoded Earth's location suggests a deep, almost instinctual knowledge of how to mark our place in the cosmos. The concept of cyclical civilization isn't just speculative philosophy, it's supported by mounting evidence from every field we've explored. The pattern repeats throughout human history, periods of remarkable achievement followed by sudden collapse, then slow rebuilding from the fragments of lost knowledge. The Bronze Age collapse, the fall of classical civilizations, the Dark Ages, each represents a smaller version of what might be a much larger cycle spanning tens of thousands of years. Professor Timothy Ashford from the Institute for Civilizational Studies at Yale has spent decades analyzing this pattern. Human progress isn't linear, it's cyclical. We see evidence of advanced metallurgy that disappears for millennia, astronomical knowledge that gets lost and rediscovered, construction techniques that vanish without explanation. What we call the march of progress might actually be humanity slowly climbing back to heights it had reached before. Consider the technology we're developing today. GPS satellites that use principles encoded in ancient megalithic measurements, space stations that orbit at altitudes suggested by prehistoric maps, and propulsion systems that echo descriptions found in Sanskrit texts. We congratulate ourselves on innovation, but increasingly it feels like remembering. The mathematical constants we're rediscovering, the cosmic relationships we're documenting, the stellar navigation we're perfecting. All of it seems to resonate with knowledge that somehow predates its official discovery. Dr. Patricia Caldwell, who studies ancient technological traditions at Harvard, made a startling observation. The deeper we dig into ancient capabilities, the more it appears that human technological development follows a spiral pattern. We don't just move forward. We move upward through recurring cycles, each time reaching slightly higher than before, but always building on foundations laid by previous iterations of human civilization. The implications are profound. If civilizations rise and fall in predictable cycles, then our current technological achievements might not represent humanity's peak, but simply our current position on an ancient wheel that has turned many times before. This cyclical perspective transforms our understanding of human achievement and cosmic exploration. When we launched the Hubble Space Telescope, were we seeing distant galaxies for the first time, or were we remembering views once familiar to ancient astronomers? When we decoded the human genome, were we making unprecedented discoveries, or were we rediscovering knowledge that previous civilizations might have possessed? The mathematical elegance we find in quantum physics, the harmonic relationships we discover in planetary orbits, the geometric constants that govern everything from atomic structure to galactic formation. Perhaps these aren't new revelations, but ancient truths being remembered. Dr. Rebecca Thornfield, who leads the Comparative Civilization Research Center at Princeton, has developed a compelling framework for understanding human development. Each cycle of civilization builds upon the ruins of the previous one, both literally and intellectually. The survivors of each collapse carry forward fragments of knowledge, stories, measurements, mathematical relationships, astronomical observations. Over millennia, these fragments accumulate and eventually coalesce into the foundation for the next technological rise. This explains the impossible precision we find in ancient monuments, the advanced astronomical knowledge preserved in prehistoric cultures, and the sophisticated engineering capabilities that seem to predate their supposed discovery. Ancient builders weren't primitive peoples making lucky guesses. They were carrying forward the accumulated wisdom of previous cycles, rebuilding with whatever tools and knowledge survived the last collapse. Professor Camille Norwood from Berkeley's Archaeological Institute puts it starkly. We may not be pioneers venturing into unknown territory. We may be descendants retracing paths our ancestors walked before us. Every rocket launch, every satellite deployment, every mission to Mars might represent not exploration, but homecoming. As we reach the end of this journey through impossible histories and forgotten achievements, we're left with a question that challenges everything we thought we knew about human civilization. Are we truly the first to look up at the night sky with dreams of flight? Or are we simply the latest in a long line of stargazers whose predecessors once touched those distant lights? The evidence we've examined, from the mathematical precision of ancient monuments to the sophisticated astronomical knowledge of prehistoric cultures, from advanced metallurgy to detailed descriptions of flying machines, from impossible construction techniques to underwater ruins of lost civilizations, all points toward a profound conclusion. Human civilization may be far older, far more sophisticated, and far more cyclical than we've ever imagined. Dr. Diana Whitefield, who directs the Institute for Deep History at Georgetown University, synthesized decades of research into a final reflection. Perhaps the most humbling realization is that we may not be evolution's culmination, but simply the current iteration of an ancient pattern. The golden record drifting through space might not be humanity's first attempt to preserve its legacy for the cosmos. It might be the latest in a series of messages sent by civilizations that understood, perhaps better than we do, that knowledge is fragile and time is cyclical. Tonight, as you prepare for sleep, consider this possibility. The stars you see overhead might not be alien and unreachable, but familiar destinations, cosmic landmarks on a map written in your very DNA by ancestors who once walked among those lights. The silence of space might not be empty, but patient, waiting for us to remember who we truly are and reclaim our place among the stars. The eternal return continues, and perhaps this time, we'll remember enough to break the cycle and reach even higher than those who came before us. Sweet dreams, fellow travelers. The cosmos is calling us home.